In the beginning when God began to create. I like that version of the Genesis 1. Began to create. It's not God created, done, next. It's God began to create. I like that translation because it shows the ongoing action of God. And how does that action appear to us today? How do we know God is active in the world? Well, you have to have eyes to see and ears to hear and hearts to feel and discern a lot of the times. God began to create out of nothing. Not one thing was created without God. And that opens it up to a lot of things. Not one thing. And then as we go through history, we see that God creates kind of in different ways. And now in John, we see that God is continuing to create. Although it's not, Jesus is not a creation of God, and yet God comes to us as Christ to show us and to be something new we've never seen before. A newness. And in that newness, hope. Hope in a world that felt rather hopeless and oppressed. Even though Caesar Augustus was Pax Romana, peace of Rome, and brought peace, but to the powerful and the upper class and those who benefited from it, the people who were like Jesus did not enjoy a real good life. They were the ones taxed heavily. And for them, it was no peace. So now we have something brand new. Jesus come to the world. God, who was before the world. Wrap your mind around that a bit. John was correct in saying Jesus came before I did. How John knew that, only God knows. Only God knows. But Jesus was the kind who was different than the regular people that came in power to show a new way of life. It wasn't Pax Jesus so much. It was the peace of God. The kingdom of God come near, and I will show you what that means. The kingdom of God has come near. The kingdom of God, Jesus Christ embodied, has come among us to be with us, to humble God's self into someone who is less than the upper class citizens that ruled the world at that time, Jesus came to create something new. And like everything else, ran into roadblocks, ran into dissenters, ran into people who tried to dissuade him, prevent him, and eventually killed him because of his ideas and what he represented and what he fought against in kind of a backward, indirect way. He never drew arms against the Roman government, never assembled an army to overthrow the government. It was different. It was something new that people had never seen before. And it stuck. It has continued to stick for centuries and millennia. The story of Christ as a child who come to earth to be with us, to give us hope and life. And light in the darkness. Every age has seen its darkness. I can never say, well, remember the good old days, because they had their issues too. For me, it was the 60s. That's not really good old days anymore. Yeah. Talk to someone who's 100 or 99 or whatever and see what they say about the dark ages and darkness that they've seen throughout their lifetime. It's always been something. But there's always been something of hope too. People have come through. The light of Christ comes through in many different ways. And people who are humble, like the John the Baptist, who never wanted to be in the spotlight, and he wasn't presented to be in the spotlight, and yet if you Google John the Baptist, yeah, there's so much written about John the Baptist, although that wasn't the way he wanted it to be. He was stepping back and saying, this is who you want to be remembering. And even Jesus, as he points and says, God is the one. God, remember your God. He is the one who empowers us all and gives us life and light. Remember being up in the caves up in northern Wisconsin, and I have never experienced this before until we went into the cave and they said, okay, turn your lights out. And you've been there. I'm sure some of you have been in caves where you can't even see two centimeters in front of your nose. It is that dark. And yet, a little flashlight with a couple little batteries or a candlelight will light up everything. And you can see. It's amazing. When you go spelunking, you bring several candles, you bring several batteries and lights because you don't want to be caught in the middle of a cave in complete darkness. Then you're lost. You can't find your way. And sometimes we feel like we're lost and can't find our way. And yet there's always someone who turned the light on for us. You know, as a kid going up the stairs, the dark stairs, and my father would follow behind me, and then he would take something and throw it up the top of the stairs to scare the devil out of me because I thought it was a ghost up on top of the stairs. Until I turned the light on, it was part of the vacuum cleaner that he threw up there. You know. But there was always a light switch. Turn it on, and it works. How disoriented we feel in a lightning storm when the power goes off. No more TV, no more internet. Yeah, we feel a little lost. Did a funeral for a family yesterday. 39-year-old man who died after surgery. And it's tough, really tough. But there was light and there was hope. The family was a good family. They are a good family. And they came together. And it's the most people I've ever seen at a burial in 20-degree weather with wind chills of 0. But they cared and they supported each other. And there was light there. There was life there. They understood, and they've understood, and they've always understood that their life is still happening. There's still life, and there's still hope even amidst the worst of the worst tragedies and disasters. Those who create new things for the benefit of other people, and they're nameless. I'm thinking of the Constitution in Hamilton, and I never knew Hamilton played such a big role in that until I saw the musical twice, or 1.5 times. You know, who are the authors of this? And a lot of them aren't really named. You don't know them readily, but they're important, and they have something to contribute to the whole, to give us something new. This break off from Britain and saying we're establishing something new for the benefit of all people. It's over 200 years. It's remained strong. We've had something new that's different and exciting, and it's constantly being kind of changed a bit. Martin Luther was a Catholic priest who said there's got to be some slight changes in your theology to make it work for the people, the ordinary people that are not going to be crushed by the words of we have to pay $1 gazillion to get our relatives out of purgatory or whatever else. We have to transcribe the Bible from Greek into German so everybody can read it. We need to have a large catechism so parents can teach their children about God's love and how God works in the world. Doing something new and exciting for the benefit of others. That's light. That's life. That's something that Christ has given us from the very beginning. Before the creation, and now in John, as the baby Jesus comes to us, comes to us in different ways. We celebrate the life of Christ. We celebrate the birth as something new. And it comes at a time, at the new year, we make new things, new resolutions, and a new way of looking at life and maybe possibilities of trying new things or going somewhere different or having different kinds of experiences in our lives. And trying to jettison some of the things that just don't work anymore. Churches are trying something new too. There's always newness going on. Some churches have been established, like Reformation downtown Milwaukee, huge building, over 100 years. And they've sold the building, now they're in a storefront on Lisbon somewhere, doing ministry that they love. People are active and involved. And it's just different nowadays, but there's still light. There's still hope. They're still attending to people's needs who are not part of their family of the congregation, but of society. The light of Christ shines brightly, but differently sometimes than we can sometimes see or tell. Like I said, eyes to see, ears to hear, hearts to open, and mouths to profess and witness. John the Baptist witnessed to the birth of Christ, or to Christ as the one who will give us new life. And God has been giving us new life always, throughout time. Amen.